and she said to me, the bird is coming every day and sits on Bodhi tree. He listens to me when I say Namo Buddhaya 3 times. Then he opens his eyes and hears. And when I say good night, Namo Buddhaya, then he closes his eyes. Now she wants to give a name, so I said Bodhi. The name of the bird is Bodhi, small one. Interesting. Yeah.
Bante Sumita.
Yes.
This is Kyle here. I was hoping, could I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
I don't remember what page it was on. I was reading somewhere in chapter 1. And if we're going to go there soon, we can just wait. But I was curious because I was reading in regards to the jhana states that they were talking about different types of meditation. And it seemed that the kasina meditation and then the meditation on like one specific body part seems like the specific way to experience those first, or at least to get into the jhana states initially. Like it's a quicker way or a different way than if you were to just be doing some sort of basic samatha meditation on mindfulness of breath. Like, so I guess my main question is it that, not trying to say it's like a quicker way if you want to try to get there, but I had never read that before until encountering that in chapter 1, where it was just like, oh, matter of fact, yeah, you're trying to get into jhana, so you do the kasina meditation. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that was like specifically used as like a training mechanism for that.
So you want to also find a shortcuts to Nibbana?
Or I guess my main question is, I've never experienced a jhana state. So for people who meditate, is that like meditate with the kasina type meditation, it seemed to kind of make it seem like that was almost the type of meditation you would use to get into the jhana states. So I guess my main question is, can you achieve jhana through other methods of meditation? Only because like reading that in chapter 1, it kind of made it seem like, oh yeah, you're interested in jhana, you should try the kasina meditation. And I just had never read that before.
Okay. Thank you. How do I pronounce your name? Kyle?
Yeah, Kyle, that's perfect.
Kyle Shayu?
Yeah, Shive. Hey, that was great. My whole life teachers always said Shive, so
Okay.
you're great. Good English.
Okay. Thank you, Kyle, for the question. Actually, I was thinking of sharing a story with you, something like this, shortcut to Nibbana. um, but yeah, let's quickly address the issue. See, we don't know how, when, where, it happens to us. The triggering point can happen to us anytime. Let's say like right now, you are so focused and listening to this thing, and maybe looking at something or listening to one single word, you might, achieve jhana or nibbana. We can say how, when, and where it happens. Only those Buddhas or the enlightened ones who could read the other's mind hopefully can definitely say that. Having said that, I think there is no kind of shortcuts to Nibbana, but we don't even know our capacity, our internal, growth, our inner peace. How long have we been practicing? Also from our past birth. Maybe just a matter of maybe a flick of a time that you could achieve Nibbana or Jhana. And if you remember, the Prince Siddhartha himself, he achieved jhana when he was pretty young, very young, and he was like just a toddler that time. And he went with his father and mother to the harvesting ceremony. And when the others were joining in with the ceremony, the little prince, he was meditating. He was practicing anapanasati. And it is said when everyone was searching for where is the prince, where is the prince. There's a beautiful cartoon movie, Life of the Buddha. You better watch that. It's so beautiful, and it looks so natural. And the prince is meditating. He is like floating, levitating. So the father comes and sees, oh, my son, and then he bows to his son first time. It is said. So that happened because he had long practice. Maybe for many births, he has practiced. That's why it's important that we keep practicing. It can help us anytime. And also, for some people, jhana can be helpful. For some people, samatha can be very helpful, and for the others, maybe vipassana can be helpful right away. You know and in some of the suttas, Buddha also prescribed to us, those who are familiar with the samatha, please go and learn the vipassana from those expertise. And those who are good in vipassana, go and share this thing or learn from the samatha practitioners. So that means Buddha also has appreciated the samatha and vipassana both in many suttas. They are there. I have read about this. I also have written an article about anapanasati and the jhana. Maybe I will share that article with you later on. So dhyana and samatha and vipassana, they can always be helpful. You can practice and see for yourself what is working better for you. you know and let's say like you start practicing samatha, and then you will know certain techniques, skills. Okay, this is going to help you. Let me share a story with myself. When we were young kids, when we go to the temple, those monks, they used to give us a banana. Okay, we didn't know why they give us a banana. And then some kids, they just open it up and just eat it just like that. And some, they break some piece, then they eat like that. And then the teacher, the master, will recognize the child's behavior. Some just eat like that, but the others will take a break, those things, and eat little by little. So that shows the character of that person. And then he would give us an ickle broom to sweep the garden. We don't know why he gives that. And then some children, they quickly sweeps the garden, the temple yard. And so he can observe the way he does that. Like if you there are some children, they want to do it really fast, and it's so messy. And also the everything will go away with that, not only the dust, but also everything. But some are like making it very nicely, rhythmically, beautifully, like an art. The sweeping is also like a meditation. It's an art by itself. So those masters, they are skillful in recognizing the character of the child, and accordingly they prescribe the meditation. Hey, this meditation is for you. Some people have raga charita, the character dominated by the lust. And some people have dosa charita, the character dominated by the anger. And some people are moha charita, the character dominated by the delusion. Okay, and saddha charita, the character dominated by the pious nature. So accordingly, the way you write, your handwriting, the teachers try to recognize their character. And that's how they also, when you eat, the way you eat, the way you talk, the way you write, the way you sweep the garden, everything will be counted. Those masters, they will recognize your character accordingly. That's why in Visuddhimagga there are 6 characters. Raga Charita, Dosa Charita, Moha Charita, Saddha Charita, Vitakka Charita, all those characters are there. So the meditation can be applied to them according to their charita or the character. And some meditation objects, as Kyle suggested, can be applied to anyone, like Anapanasati, the practice on breath, you know. So the breath can be common, it can be applied to anyone. And the metta meditation, loving kindness meditation, can also be common. And let's say like Buddha Anusati, the recollection on the Buddha, I think I also consider it can be applied to many people. So I was not aware of that one before. So because when we say Buddha Anusati, we always think of the Buddha. Okay, recollection of the Buddha. So when you think of the Buddha and meditate, and it's very easy for you to meditate. You don't get angry. You feel very happy, very nice. Easily you go to trance. But I was thinking, how do we? When I came to the West here, because we had people from different perspectives. So I was thinking what to do. How can I say like, hey, you can think of the Buddha? They are not comfortable with that. Then they feel maybe angry with that, you know. So I actually said, okay, when you meditate, you think of the Buddha if you are a Buddhist. You think of Jesus, or you think of Muhammad, or any other Indian god or something, depending on your perspective. That way I felt Buddhanusati was more applicable to all those people, and they enjoyed that meditation too. So it depends on, yeah, I think, how we meditate and how we recognize the people. So things like anapanasati, breath doesn't have a religion, right? Breath is breath. It's not like Buddhist or Hindu or whatever. Breath is human. That is my own breath. So you read the breath, you observe the breath. We call it anapanasati. Of course, those great practitioners, founders of those religions, they taught us those techniques, but they can be very easily applied to by everyone. So I think, if you want to think of those, and if you want to practice, you also can think of your own character. Maybe some fruits, some food you like, some sour food, that also shows your character. Kyle, do you like sweet food?
Yeah, I like sour food a lot, actually.
Okay. Okay, so if you like sour food, that means also you have a different character. And some people like sweet food, they have a different character. So depending on that, you can practice. And for some people, sitting meditation is difficult. For some people, I think, for maybe like dosa charita, like people who are very restless and like difficult to sit at one place. So what they can do is they can walk. you know Walking meditation is better for them, and then when you calm down, you can sit and meditate. That is one thing. And so depending on the character, depending on, good. Yeah. So bitter food. Yeah,
Uh,
some people like bitter food.
I read an article about the types of food that you like, and I remember one thing it said, if you like bitter foods, you might be a psychopath. So I posted the link to that.
I like bitter food.
So do I. It made me worried.
Yeah, you like bitter food, right? Yeah.
Yeah, bitter melon's one of my favorites.
Okay.
Same here. Yeah.
You like bitter melon?
I like
Like
bitter herbs, Chinese herbs.
Yeah. Do you like bitter chocolate?
Yeah,
Dark
also.
chocolate, right? So when we were kids, we used to like sweet chocolate, and later on, when grow old, we think, oh, the sweet is not good; it's sugar, and it's not going to help you. And so we change mentally. We change that's because of our external knowledge. This is not what we mean here. It should come from you, originally. That's why the children, they don't know these things. It's easier for the children to recognize. um, People can change, but it's also okay. Let's say now, how do we recommend a meditation for a grown-up person? That's also fine. Let's say now you don't like sweet food anymore. Earlier you used to, but not anymore. That's fine. So you like bitter food because you think it is more healthier or whatever, right? There is a reason behind, maybe. So depending on that, we can actually recommend a meditation. And common meditation can also be practiced. And specific meditation, like 40 kasinas are there, the 40 objects of meditation, they can also practice any of them, depending on their. So when you do, like PAOK meditation centers, they actually practice almost every object, and then they can recommend, they can identify themselves. But usually we can think, okay, this is going to work for me, so we can work on that.
Thank you very much about that.
Okay, so maybe I will start with the story, but even before that, I would like to share this one for you. Have you seen this before?
It looks familiar. Yes.
Familiar? Okay, if you know it, don't say that. But let me ask now, what do you think of this?
It's a I've seen it. I've never read anything on it, so my guess is just a guess. But it's a representation of perception. So from the if you on top of the water, it looks just like an iceberg floating
Okay.
in the water, but closer inspection, you see nothing but trash.
Yeah, Francesca, did you want to say something? You mute.
Yes. What I was saying, we're defecating in our mess kit. That's a nice way to say it. We're trashing our planet.
Okay.
We'll say it that nicely.
Okay. Yeah. And also, as psychology suggests, right? Modern psychologists, you also have the iceberg theory. I think Dr. Baird Jacobs can also explain it a little bit more. Like Sigmund Freud's theory, the tip of the iceberg is what we can see, but underneath the water, there are much more that we don't see, don't recognize. Yeah, this is just a plastic bag in the water. I used to show this to our children, students, and many of them say, "Oh, this is the iceberg theory." Yeah, because that's also kind of illusion, right? So at the beginning, like you have a nice, beautiful sky here and like the water level, and then again we can see the fish, and all these things can be really kind of deluding us. So we think, oh, this is just this is an iceberg. Unless if you carefully see, oh, this is just a plastic bag in the water, you might be confused as well, right? So we can use it in many ways, as you said. How the earth has been destroyed by us, and we humans have been so selfish. We thought, oh, the whole entire earth belongs to us, so we can do whatever we want, and now we are being punished for being overwhelmingly selfish and not thinking of the earth, right? um, that is um, that is one thing. And also in the iceberg theory, I think we all have something on the top, and then later behind this there are so many things that we cannot even recognize. Okay, having shared this, I would like to share a story with you. One day, uh, a man came to the Buddha. Actually, he was a practitioner. He used to wear a cloth made of wood. So he's called Daru Chiriya. Maybe I will type the name. Daru Chiriya. Daru Chiriya. Okay. So that is the name of the man. And Daru Chiriya came to the Buddha, and he came from far away, and he had a long journey, and it was those days very difficult walking. You don't have like today fast track trains or something, so they had to walk mostly, and for miles and miles he walked, and he met the Buddha and asked him, I don't have much time, and I would like to achieve the Nibbana as soon as possible. So, as Kyle Shaw asked me, can you recommend me a shortcut to Nibbana? That was the question. Can you recommend me a shortcut to Nibbana? And then the Buddha said, um, Buddha knew him. He read his mind right away, and he knew this guy is very, very smart, very, very intelligent. He's just about to blossom. Okay, his intelligence is so ripe. He was just about to blossom. So Buddha said, if you want to achieve the Nibbana, if you want to achieve the Nibbana, you want a shortcut, then you can tame the six faculties. Okay, six faculties. If you tame them, you can achieve your spiritual goal as soon as possible. So, what are those six faculties? Do you know the six faculties?
Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind.
Yes, yes, that is the sixth faculty. So eye, ear, nose, and tongue, and body, and the mind. These are the six faculties. And if you tame them, if you have a control over them, then you can actually achieve the Nibbana as soon as possible. So what we do here, whenever you see things, you see just as you see, and you don't get attached to that. Neither you are worried, or neither you are attached to that, nor you are conflicting with that. Just something. You saw something, that's it. And so Buddha gave him an explanation regarding this. And he explained all these six salayatana, what we call six faculties. And then it was a short sermon. And then Daruchirya said, I want to become a monk. I also want to enter the order. Can you please help me? And then the Buddha also read his mind, and he was not qualified to magically wear a robe. There were people who could magically wear a robe, and this person has not done so. So Buddha asked, okay, go ahead and find a robe, bring a robe, I will make you a monk. So he went. And on the way, he was knocked down by a mad cow, and he was killed. Okay, he was killed by a mad cow, and therefore he died on the spot. And so a lot of people were worried, and the monks who were watching this thing, And they actually were very worried. Oh, the poor fellow Daruchirya. He just came, he couldn't even become a monk. And the Buddha said, bring his body and cremate it with respect, just like you do it to an Arahanta person, liberated person. That means he is not more born anywhere. He has finished his birth circle. He has already become an Arahanta. And so he just wanted to become a monk. That's it. But by listening to the Dhamma, he already became Arahanta. So that is the story of Daruchirya. If you want to find a shortcut to Nibbana, this is it. Shortcut to Nibbana is, think of all the six faculties. If you can work with them, you can definitely improve so much. And if you can definitely achieve very high stages. One time, there was another monk. He was meditating on bones. Okay, he was meditating on bones. There is a meditation called Atthika Bhavana. Atti means bone. Let me type the word. Okay, actually there should be a dot underneath the T's. Okay, so Atti means bone. Atthika Bhavana means meditation upon bones. So this monk used to meditate upon bones, and then one day he was going for his alms round. And even while going for alms round, he was meditating upon bones. Okay, even while walking, he was meditating upon bones. And on the way, he met a woman. A lady came to him and she smiled at the monk. And the monk just was practicing anyway. He just passed by. And then after some time, a man came. The man asked the monk, did you see a woman? Did you see a woman? The monk said, I don't remember if I have seen a woman, but I remember I have seen a skeleton. He said, the monk said he has seen a skeleton. Can you imagine what happened? Like it was like an insult or what? Yeah. What happened here? What happened here in this case?
He was consistently meditating on the impermanence of life and how we're all just walking bones. So when he saw the woman, he was just looking at everybody as being, impermanent and seeing like the cycle of life and death. And so since he was contemplating on all of that as his object of meditation, he just saw that woman and saw the impermanence of life and saw her as a walking skeleton.
Yeah, actually what happened, when the woman started smiling, he saw the teeth. Okay, yeah, that's the thing. When he saw the teeth, that meditation came right away, right in front of him, and the entire body was seen as a skeleton. That is also the power of his practice. Sometimes it can be weird, like for regular people, those practitioners can be weird. We might be thinking they are hallucinating or something. We might be thinking they are having like schizophrenia or something. But sometimes, you never know, you should never undermine those people who are really practitioners. Even homeless people, you don't know how powerful they are. They can, Daruchirya was just like that, right? Daruchirya looks so weird. He was wearing just, wood. That was his attire. And look at his intelligence. Just a small sermon was good enough for him to achieve enlightenment. And that's why it is said, whenever we see a homeless person or a poor person, maybe they come to you in disguise. just to testify you, you know. So whenever you say them, you have to pay respect to them. You never know, the man in front of you, the woman in front of you can be a liberated one, you know, a powerful person, you never know. So we have to be really careful about that as well. Okay, Dr. Jacobs, do you have to say something?
I don't really have anything to add. I like these stories a lot. And the idea of the strength of the mind, like you were saying earlier, mind precedes, is the forerunner of everything.
Yeah.
I like the stories.
Yeah, hopefully we can share so many stories. We used to listen to many stories when we were kids. You know, we loved our grandparents because they used to read us so many stories. They used to read our Jatakates, Dhammapada stories, and so we loved the grandparents. Whenever we see them, grandma, grandpa, please tell us a story. And so they would tell a Buddhist story. We like stories, but underneath the story, we learn those, you know, powerful ethical teachings. That's why we really, so in a way, it was it was helping a lot to have that family bond. So you respect the elderly people on the one hand, and those elderly people also would love to have small young children around them, because they also were very innocent and really wonderful kids. And so they were helping each other. We have never heard of home, what do you call, elders home or something those days. Right now we see them mushrooming everywhere, but those days the whole family, you know, lived together. And the storytelling was one way of getting the family connected to each other. And I really like that. So we learned many stories that way. Okay. Okay. And so Abhidhammat Sangaha. Uh, yeah, let me see. I had a chart, I think I wanted to show. This chart will be explained to you later. I think this one. Can you see this? Oh no, not this. Maybe I will go to that. Yeah, Abhidhamma Sangha. So Abhidhamma Sangha, the compendium of things contained in the Abhidhamma, is a Pali Buddhist instruction, a manual of compendium, as I mentioned before, by Acharya Anuruddha. Maybe you need to remember those important details. And Bhikkhu Bodhi says this is one of the most important texts in Theravada Abhidhamma, because it is just a summary of the entire Abhidhamma Pitaka, and it's very famous in the Buddhist world. And in this, we also have the I would like to explain a little bit of the chapters. The Abhidhamma Sangha consists of following chapters. Chapter 1, Compendium of Consciousness, Chitta Sangaha Vibhago. And so here we find the 89 and 121 chitta, so types of consciousness. And in chapter 2, we find Chetasika, the 52 mental factors. And so it also delves into 89 classes of consciousness. And then chapter 3 is miscellaneous. Here we have classifies chittas and chetasikas with respect to 6 categories: root, feeling, and function, and door, and object, and base. And then we have analysis of the cognitive process. These are really important areas that we can learn more about Abhidhamma. And process freed and compendium matter, they are the other 6 other chapters. And compendium of categories, chapter 7. This arranges the Dhamma's outline in the previous chapter into 4 broad headings, like compendium of defilements, mixed categories, and the requisites for enlightenment, and compendium of the whole. So just to have a idea about these will be very helpful for us to understand the content of the Abhidhamma Sangha. And in chapter 8, compendium of relations or conditionality, it analyzes the relationship between dhammas and especially the 24 conditional relations. Like many monks, they chant this patthana uh, with the 24 conditional relations. I would like to chant this with you one day, 24 pattanas. So that will be very nice. I will give you the text. We will chant one day, okay? It is also said they want to encourage chanting of patana. On the one hand, they say it is very good. And actually also the underlying idea is that you preserve this Abhidhamma Pitaka. And on the one hand, it is a very powerful chanting, and on the other, you preserve the Abhidhamma Pitaka that way. That's why Burmese people, especially, they are very devoted to Abhidhamma Pitaka. And compendium of meditation subject, drawing on the Visuddhimagga, deals with the 40 kasina, as I mentioned. So this again is a very, very important chapter. Abhidhamma Sangha and Visuddhimagga, they both side by side, very mutually helpful to each other, so that you can one day, if you find time, please have a look at the Visuddhimagga and the Abhidhamma Pitaka, Abhidhamma Sangha both. Then Ledi Sayadaw, Paramatta Dipani Tika, which criticizes the Vibhavini Tika, and then Vimala Sayadaw defends the opinion of Vibhavini against Ledi Sayadaw's criticisms. And Navanita Tika by the Indian scholar Dhammananda Kosambi, also is a very erudite scholar. He wrote this Navanita Tika, and also called the butter commentary, because it explains the Sangha in a smooth and simple manner, avoiding philosophical controversy. A comprehensive manual of Abhidhamma by Narada Thero and Bhikkhu Bodhi and Urevata Dhamma includes an English medium introduction and explanatory commentary as well, and also tables by Sayadaw U. Silananda. And so these will be very helpful again, just to give a summary of this. Translation: Abhidhamma Sangha was first translated into English by Can someone pronounce this name, please? Xue Zhang Aung. Is that a Chinese name?
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
maybe it's Myanmar name. Burmese
Oh, yeah,
name.
yeah. It looks
Shui
like
Zhang Ao.
Xue Zhang Aung.
Corey, you were about to say something, Corey?
I was just gonna say I think your guess is as good as mine, but you're probably closer than anybody here.
Yeah. Oh, are you from Myanmar? Do we have someone from Myanmar here?
No, I'm from Malaysia.
Oh, okay. So Zue Zhang Aung, that is the first ever translation of Abhidhamma Sangha into English. So it's really interesting. And between 1895 and 1905. And later, Rhys Davids edited this and printed in 1910. And the Sangha was also translated. Sorry, the Sangha here means Abhidhamma Sangha, and translated into English by Narada Mahathera. Narada Mahathera also is a Sri Lankan monk, and he has also written many books, and he has visited. Those days we were very young, I remember. He was a very famous, very respected monk. He used to visit those countries, preaching the Dhamma in Vietnam, and in England, in other countries also. He used to visit, and his flow of English and also his understanding of the Dhamma was very helpful to the Western countries. The American monk Bhikkhu Bodhi, we all know, is such a wonderful monk. I really respect Bhikkhu Bodhi and um, also Bhikkhu Thanissaro for their wonderful contribution to Buddhism here. And comprehensive manual of Abhidhamma with explanations of each section by U Revata Dhamma, and charts and tables are also there. So this also can be a very helpful guide to many of us. And so you can see now many this U is, whenever you find something like U, and they are like Myanmar monks. And Sayadaw also is a Myanmar title for senior monks. And then Rupert Grething's book, and another one, another translation. And R.P. Vijayaratna is another Sri Lankan. So they also have translated the book. So we do have a few translations of the Abhidhamma Sangha. So Abhidhamma Sangha will be the key to our course, and those charts and many things that we learn here will be really helpful to us. Okay. Where is the... Okay, I want to say a little bit about the Abhidhamma Pitaka. Mostly the authority or the authorship was given and to Venerable Sariputta, maybe because he had a discussion with the Buddha, and he was also foremost among the wise monks. So many suttas have been, many of those suttas which had very profound Dhamma teachings have also been assigned to, ascribed to Venerable Sariputta, including this, but not necessarily. I mean, the traditional belief is that, but I think the modern scholarship does not accept just like that. But I noticed that Venerable Sariputta has been ascribed to many of those texts for his amazing capacity to explain things in detail, especially those profound Dhamma matters. And modern Western scholarship generally dates the origin of the Abhidhamma Pitaka to sometime around the 3rd century BC. So that is way later than we know. And therefore, the 7 Abhidhamma works are generally claimed by scholars not to represent the words of the Buddha himself, but those of disciples and scholars. Yeah, scholastically thinking, yeah, that can be true, but actually the basic teachings, all those drafts, all those charts, they have been formulated hopefully by the later scholars, scholarly monks, but they were based on the basic teachings of the Buddha. We don't find any controversy when we think of these analytical studies of Abhidhamma. and maybe when we see the existence of the texts of the Vinaya and either 5 Nikayas or the 4 Agamas. So when we talk about the Nikayas, that is mostly the Theravada tradition. When we talk about, this is the Pali Nikayas. And when we talk about the Agamas, that talks about the Sanskrit edition. So mostly the Theravada tradition, they were following the Pali tradition, Pali language, and the Mahayana tradition. They adopted the Sanskrit language, and today we still have some Sanskrit texts, but we don't have any complete edition of Abhidhamma Pitaka, just like we have in the Pali Nikayas. And so it's important that we learn, maybe we can also compare and contrast the 2 traditions. I think Rupert Getting's book can be also helpful to you. A.K. Warder, Peter Harvey, and they also have written much about the Abhidhamma. Later on, the Abhidhamma has become a very crucial part of Buddhist teaching for their concise and precise and very powerful psychological analysis. So these are the texts that maybe we will discuss. At least the content of these books will be useful for you, as we are just introducing the text. We don't want to cover up the entire Abhidhamma Pitaka or something, just to have a text, textual understanding, a little bit of approach to this will be helpful. Dhamma Sangani is the first one, and Vibhanga is the second one, Dhatu Katha is the third, and Puggala Panyati is the fourth, and Kathavatu is the fifth, Yamaka and Patthana, sixth and seventh. Okay, here Dhamma Sangani, summary of Dhamma. And Dhamma is Pali, Dharma is Sanskrit. So it is otherwise the same. This is the manual of ethics for monks. It is like Vinaya Pitaka in a way. It begins with a Matika, as we mentioned, like matrix, which lists classifications of Dhammas, translated as phenomena, ideas, and states. So Dhamma is such a multi-meaningful word again. So we can have many different translations for this word. The Matika starts with 22 threefold classifications. So they are called Tika Matika, or triads, and such as good, bad, unclassified, and then follows with 100 twofold classification, what we call dyads, to the Abhidhamma method. So please remember this. Maybe this thing will be useful to all of you. 22 threefold classifications and 100 twofold classifications are there in Dhamma Sangani. Many of the classifications are not exhaustive, and some are not even exclusive. The Matika ends with 42 twofold classifications according to the Sutta method. These 42 are only used in the Dhammasangani, whereas the other 122 are used in some of the other books as well. So just remember the content of Dhammasangani. I think it will be useful. The other one is Vibhanga, division or classification. This consists of 18 chapters, okay, here in the Vibhanga. Vibhanga, Bhanga is to break. So this also breaks things into different parts. Again, another classification, each dealing with a different topic. 18 chapters. For example, the first chapter deals with 5 aggregates. So again, very important, how they are going straight to the point, 5 aggregates. A typical chapter consists of 3 parts. The first 3 parts explains the topic according to the Sutta method, and often word for word as in actual suttas. The second is Abhidhamma explanation, mainly by lists or synonyms as in the Dhammasangani. And so the Sutta method and Abhidhamma method also have little bit different approaches. But sometimes, like here, we have both methods. And then Dhatu Katha. Dhatu is element. Katha is discussion or storytelling. So the discussion of elements are here. So here we have various topics, mostly from the Vibhanga, relating them to the 5 aggregates again, and 12 bases and 18 elements that we will discuss more later on. Just to have a look at or to idea, I think is important here. And what I try to do here is give you an overall idea of these things, and then later on we should be able to explain them little by little, depending on our coursework restrictions. And also I would uh, like to say whatever I miss, Dr. Beth Jacobs will also cover up. And so we will help each other and in teaching you. And as it is just introduction to Abhidhamma, so we are not going to cover up many profound details in this course, but it will be very helpful um, to have an overall understanding the Abhidhamma Pitaka for all of you. Puggala Panyati. Puggala means person. Panyati we already learned, like Panyati Satya. So Panyati is like designation. Here Puggala Panyati starts with its own Matika. Matika is the matrix or the titles, which begins with some standard list and then continues list of persons grouped numerically from ones to tens, like in the Anguttara Nikaya. As I mentioned, 1 to 11 categories are there. Here we have ones to tens. And so these Matika means just topics. They then they explained in the main body, and they list of human characteristics, like it's about the Puggala persons. As I mentioned about the different kinds of people, this book Puggala Panyati can be very helpful in order to recognize the characteristics of the people. I think it's also very much compatible with the modern psychology. You can see them how important those are very ancient texts, and they are ancient wisdom, and how they could teach us to recognize the people by their behaviors and all that stuff. So really important explanations are there in this sutta, this Puggala Panyati text, and you can also find them in Anguttara Nikaya. Katha Vattu. This is the book written by Venerable Moggali Puttathissa, who was the chairperson of Third Buddhist Council. And after written this, only it is said that the Abhidhamma Pitaka was complete in the 3rd century BC during the time of King Ashoka. So points of controversy. Katha means story. Vattu means just the object, or so these are like stories, but points of controversy is how they have translated. So it has more than 200 debates on questions of doctrine. Very nice, just like Milinda Panya, questions of Milinda, because these questions, he wanted to answer those, also negate those heretical views those days. And during the King Ashoka's time, it is like 60,000 fake monks were chased away. They were forced to disrobe. So many fake monks were there those days. They just wear the robe and do whatever they want. And that can happen from time to time. So those days that happened, and many. So Venerable Moggali Puttathissa, he wrote this book to defend the Theravada standpoint. The questions were heretical in nature, and I answered in such a way as to refute them. Starts with a question of whether or not a soul exists. It does not identify the participant. The commentary says that the debates are between the Theravada and other schools, which it identifies in each case. These identifications are mostly consistent with what is known from other sources about the doctrines of different schools. It's only the only portion attributed to a specific author called Moggali Puttathissa. Yeah, this is very interesting. Like, apart from this book, the other books have not been ascribed to particular scholars, authors. And Yamaka means pairs. Like in Dhammapada, the first chapter is called Yamaka Vagga. That means twin verses. So this 10 chapter book consists of different topics. For example, the first deals with roots. A typical chapter, there are a number of patterns, and then 3 parts. And then the first part deals with questions of identity. Is good root root, but is root good root? So like different ways how they explain things in 3 ways. The entire Yamaka consists of such pairs of converse questions with their answers. So it's also very useful to read this because they give the answer and also the question. And for someone for whom the form aggregates arises, does the feeling aggregate arise? So that is a question. So the third part deals with the understanding. Does someone who understands the eye base understand the ear base? So in a sense, it is dealing with the psychological phenomena. Again, it touches upon the psychological part of Abhidhamma Pitaka. Very fascinating. This is the one which is very popular among many, like 24 conditions in relation to the matrix. The good dhamma is related to good dhamma by root condition, and those 24 pachayas or conditions are again chanted by many and also explained in detail in the Patthana Pakarana. So these are the 7 Pakaranas. At least please remember the titles. Okay. Do you remember anyone now? I think let's go. Like I'd like to, make you familiar with that. First one is Dhamma Sangani. Okay. Maybe you can all read it. First one is Dhamma Sangani. And the second, yes, this is the first one. Dhamma Sangani.
Dhamma Sangani.
Yeah, Dhamma Sangani.
Dhamma Sangani.
Yeah, Dhamma Sangani. That is the first.
Dhamma Sangani.
Yeah, second one is Vibhanga.
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 Yes. And the third one is
Dhatu Kata.
Dhatu Katha. Dhatu Katha.
Dhatu Kata.
And then the third, this one, fourth one,
Puggala
Puggala Panyati.
Panyati.
Puggala Panyati. Okay.
Puggala
These are called
Panyati.
diacritical marks. If you know how to do that, that's fine. Otherwise, it's right. Puggala Panyati. This is about the persons, right? Characters.
Destination.
Yeah. Puggala Panyati. Then next one is Kathavattu. Points of controversy. Kathavattu.
Controversy.
Kathavattu. Yamaka.
Pairs.
Yeah, Yamaka. Yeah. And then Patthana.
Patthana. Conditions.
Yeah. So if I ask you to just take a look at this in 2 minutes, okay, just have a look at them in 2 minutes and try to remember as many titles as you can. Ready to take up the challenge? Okay, ready? Okay, let's see how much you can, that's fine. Anyone wants to try? Corey, Russell, do you want to try? Okay, I will I will hide it. So what you can do is you look at the screen and tell as many books as you can.
I'll try.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Dhammasangani to I can't remember the rest of it. Pugala Panyati, and then I can't remember anymore.
Okay. Yeah, that's good try.
Right.
Okay, Susan.
Yamaka, something that sounds like Chewbacca, Chewbacca, Vibaka, Vibaka, Chewbacca.
Vibhanga.
Yeah, Vibanga, Chewbacca, Vibanga. And Pugala about people.
Puggala
Funny.
Panyati. Good.
Chewbacca.
Yamaka.
Yeah. We can
Yamaka.
give you a certificate for being so young if you can. Your brain can be young. Dhammasangani, Vibhanga, Dhatu Kata, Puggala Panyati, Yamaka, Patthana,
Yamaka. Patana.
Kathavatu. Yeah, fifth one is Kathavatu. One way of doing it, as I said, maybe remember the first letters. That also will give you exactly the chronology or the list included. Anyone who can try at least 5? Yeah, DVD, that's a good one. Look at the first letters. DVD, PKYP. Yeah. So, Dhammasangani, Vibhanga, Dhatu Kata, Puggala Panyati, Kathavattu, Yamaka Patthana.
I think maybe we could make a song out of it, and then I'd
I
remember.
know. DVD, PKYP. You can become younger.
So do these have to be in order?
Order would be better. I mean, even if not, something is better than nothing. If you can.
Bante, is it
Yes.
Katawantu?
Kathavattu.
Katawatu. So I just have to think of Kathmandu.
Yeah, whichever
So I
is
got
fine.
Kathmandu, Katawantu.
Kathavattu, points of controversy.
Oh, points of controversy. Okay, Kathmandu, Katawatu. And the Vibanga, well, like I said, that one to me sounds like Chewbacca. So I got 2 there.
Okay.
Like the Star Wars Chewbacca.
Okay.
Sorry, what does Vibanga means again?
Vibhanga is classification.
Okay, so Chewbacca classification Vibanga.
Okay, hands up those who have remembered at least 4. Give me a reaction here. We have reactions, right? We have reactions, you can see.
Yama. Okay.
Yeah. Those who remember at
Patthana.
least 4.
Banga.
Now I give you a chance to dust out all those the brain particles that you haven't used for a while. Because if you don't use them, it will not work. It will be inactive forever. So eventually it will be like gone into oblivion. Maybe you need to still, even though you are like, maybe you think aging, no, you still can learn things. As I mentioned, Bante Ananda Maitreya, he started learning at the age of 90. So there is nothing that can stop you your brain can still, revamp.
So you want each of us to try?
Let's see at least a few people volunteers.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'll try.
Okay.
Dhamma Sangha Bamvaga and Datu Katu Pugla and Yama Patana. I don't remember that controversy one.
Katavatu.
Katabatu. Did I get it all? Pugla Pati? Yeah, I say that already.
Yeah, I think you tried all. I think it's really nice, although they were not really good at the pronunciation, but I think you tried. We really have to appreciate. Okay, I will
Thank
repeat
you.
one more time. Dhamma Sangani, Vibhanga, Dhatu Kata, Puggala Panyati, Kathavathu, Yamaka, Patthana. Lee Patton, do you want to try?
Well, I've got my notes right in front of me, so.
Yeah, you can have the note right in front of you, but you don't see them. That's the challenge.
Okay. I'll minimize them. So Dhamma Sangha, Vibhanga, Yamaka, Punyata, Pugalala. That's all I can remember.
Okay. Yeah, let's give him a reaction also, okay?
Sadhu, sadhu,
Yeah,
sadhu.
sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else wants to try? David, do you want to try?
My problem is I didn't get it the first time. I mean, I don't. Yeah. Yamita, Pugla Panya, Dhamma Pangla.
Dhamma Sangani.
Yeah, that one. Dhamma Sangani. Vibhangana. That's not all of them. I'm drawing a blank.
Okay. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay. Thank you so much for, I appreciate your effort, okay? It doesn't matter you remember or not, it's your effort that makes things better. I think the attempt is more important than the result. So we don't worry about the result, outcome. Have you heard of the entire Tipitaka? How many volumes are there in the Tipitaka? That's like 55 volumes something. Maybe like 6-footer.
Yeah,
If you put them in stack, that's a lot of books. And there are some monks who have learned all of them by heart. Can you imagine?
That
I
would
have
take me
seen
a while.
4 monks. Yeah, I have seen actually in my lifetime, I have seen 5 of them who have remembered all of them by heart. And in Myanmar, there is also a tradition. It's a very strenuous way they maintain that. And there will be a panel of judges to testify your memory. Yes. And I heard there are 12 monks now in Myanmar who can recite the entire Tipitaka, all the Atakatas, Tikas by heart. Yeah, I have met 4 of them when I was in India.
Bante, I'm sure none of them use smartphone or handphone.
No, they don't even talk much.
Too much of a distraction.
Yeah. Yes, they and also I noticed that I attended 10 days chanting under the Bodhi tree, and so many monks were there, and 4 of them were very, very distinctly clear when you see them. Their face, their like the gestures, such disciplined monks. So it's really nice to see them and very easily recognizable, I felt. In Sri Lanka, there was also a monk whose name was Bante Arya Dhamma. Now Arya Dhamma. He passed away just a few years ago. And I remember when I was little, and I could also learn things really fast. And we had that knack of learning things by heart. And so when we go to our master, we have to recite those chantings, and some of those Dhamma Chakkapavatana Sutta, all the big suttas, and I learned by heart. And then we go to him and we recite. We cannot make more than 3 mistakes. If you make 3 mistakes, go back.
Start over?
Start over. So we
From
had
the beginning. Next time.
Yeah,
Bante, what is the secret to learning? Please share with us. What is the secret? By singing it? By what?
I think when we were young, it was much more easier. Singing, repeating. Yeah. And then our master would assign us different places. You go to Bodhi tree area, recite it loud. You go to Stupa area, recite it loud. You go to bell tower area, recite it loud. So we have been assigned different places in the temple. So we had to recite loud, and he would sit and listen to us. And if we make mistakes, he would say, "Oh, this is wrong." That is wrong pronunciation. And so we have to correct it. And that's how we learned, actually. That was a tradition, very age-old tradition. And all those monks were called, in the past time, as I mentioned, they were called Bhanaka. Bhanati is to speak. So they would learn them by heart.
So when you're being taught and everybody's got their place and they're doing their out loud recitation, is your teacher, is he listening to all of them at the same time?
See, it's a big temple.
Yeah.
And you can see, by I think your experience, if someone is making a mistake. Yeah, even though they simultaneously, we were reciting, he could recognize. I could do that. I know if somebody makes a mistake, even though they are in different locations, I could recognize too. Yeah.
Bante, would you say Bante Bhikkhu Bodhi has the same kind of clarity that you've seen in other monks in Sri Lanka?
Same amount of what? Clarity?
Yeah, the same kind of clarity that you described earlier about those monks in Sri Lanka. Would you say you see
think,
the same in
the
Bodhi?
traditional Buddhist countries, they have different settings. Like we became monk when I was 11. So that time it was really very young. It was pretty easier for us to learn. and we had traditional monastic schools, and so we also have to learn other subjects as well. And I don't know if we had the traditional training like that for Bhikkhu Bodhi, but Bhikkhu Bodhi was in Sri Lanka for 24 years. So that's a long time. He was working, and of course he was a smart monk. Maybe he could not learn, undergo those traditional trainings as we do, but maybe as he was pretty much working hard. I also liked some of their traditional, Western traditional systems. They can also be helpful. Yeah, Bhikkhu Bodhi must have been influenced by those traditional settings as well, at least to a certain extent, because he was undergoing the training of Bante Panyasiha, Madihe Panyasiha Nayakatero. Very powerful, very respectable place in Sri Lanka even today. Yeah. Okay. So just to go again with that list, Dhamma Sangani, please repeat by yourself, because your voice is the sweetest voice to you, okay? So you can repeat. So when you repeat, you listen to your own voice. And then when you read out loud, you don't get other distractions. And so there are many, and also you don't feel sleepy. Sometimes when you read silently, maybe you feel sleepy. When you read out loud, there are many benefits of reciting. Other people also will learn. That's the other thing. Other people will also learn. That's why those reciters are really important. Dhamma Sangani Vibhanga Dhatu Kata Puggala Panyati Kathavatu Yamaka Patthana. Okay. Next time I'll ask. And
You please repeat one more time?
Dhamma Sangani Vibhanga Dhatu Kata Puggala Panyati Kathavatu Yamaka Patthana.
Thank you.
Yeah. I will create a Quizlet lesson, and I will also give these words and the pronunciation so that you can practice. Okay. So
Bante, could I try to say them?
yeah, sure.
I've been practicing this whole time, so I hope I get it.
See?
We'll see. Okay. Dhamma Sangani Vibhanga Datta Katu Pugala Panyati Kattavatu Yamaka Patana.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Wonderful. So again, I would like to say like Dhamma Sangani, Vibhanga. The third one you mentioned like Dhatu Katha. Okay. Yeah. Dhatu Katha, and then Puggala Panyati, Kathavatu, Yamaka, and Patthana. Yes. Very nice. Yeah, I know you have the capacity, all of you. Very nice. Okay. And so please remember them, and that will be extremely helpful to all of you. And be I actually wanted to, okay, maybe this one. Manual of Abhidhamma. And here, this is Venerable Narada's book. I hope you have this text, right? Because in this text, if you click here, you can go directly to the topic right away. Let's say like 4 classes of consciousness. If you click here, you can go to that. If you don't have, let me know, I can share this. And this is about the jhana and 52 kinds of mental states, cetasika. And okay, I know I was thinking of giving you, let me see if I can find it. Okay, yeah, first I have to show that to you first. Yeah, this again here also we can find the explanation of those texts and also the meaning. So chitta, cetasika, rupa, nibbana. These are the fourfold categories in the Abhidhamma. And the reality is Sammuti Satya and Paramatta Satya, conventional truth and the ultimate reality or abstract truth. These are the other things that you may want to remember. And I really want to go to the situation. Chitta Chetasika Rupa Nibbana. Okay, Kamavachara, Rupavachara, Arupavachara, Lokuttara. Okay, here consciousness pertaining to sensuous sphere, consciousness pertaining to the form sphere, and consciousness pertaining to the formless sphere. So, Kama Bhava, Rupa Bhava, and Arupa Bhava, and then the supramundane, that is the Lokuttara. So, out of them, this one is actually the most important here, the Lokuttara, that is the Nibbana. So here, Kama Bhava, we have, when we say Kama, it's the humanly realms and also the other 4 states. I mean, Apaya, human realms, and also the 6 celestial realms are called Kama Bhava. So Apaya is the hell realms, okay? And Manusaloka is the human realm. And the 6 celestial realms called heavenly realms or Sagga, they are all karma worlds. And it is very natural that we as humans like food, and our food, because we are humans, we like certain foods. And if you are a person here, being here in the Apaya world or states of misery, 4 states of misery actually, Naraka, Tiryak, Preta, Asura, like they are 4 states. And there, they have different foods, and it is very different from us. And if you are born in a celestial realm, your food also will be different. Like maybe you just want the smell of some fruits or something like that. You don't need to eat the food that we eat. So everyone has different foods. That is very natural. That karma or that desire or that sensual craving is there in different ways. For forms, sounds, odor, taste, and contact, they are different in these different realms. I just wanted to emphasize that one here. Avachara means moves about. So kama avachara means you move about in this kama world. And rupavachara means that again is the rupa world or the forms. So at the beginning, it is the karma that is more powerful. And later on, when you meditate, when you are into the jhanas, you don't feel like having those karma desires. You are slowly diluting those karma desires. And then you are more into the rupavachara jhanas. And there you can see respectively mean either with that which pertains to rupa and arupa jhanas. They are all jhanas. So the rupa jhana, and later on you will also feel rupa jhana is not important. And then you are meditating upon arupa jhana, the formless state. And so rupa and arupa. And eventually you will find that rupa and arupa, they are, none of them is important than the nibbana itself. So they are also very useful to learn. And although we have the mere knowledge, it doesn't come to us just like that. Only in the experiential level that you will really recognize them, you really realize these truths. Otherwise, let's say like jhana is not important, the nibbana is important if someone says, but it's not so easy. Like let's say like to know the Four Noble Truths is important. Yes, we all know the Four Noble Truths, like the truth of suffering, the cause of suffering, the cessation of suffering, the path leading to the cessation of suffering. That's the Four Noble Truths. But then we are not liberated yet. We are not enlightened yet, because it should come in the experiential level. That is in your deep samadhi, maybe in deep jhana, maybe those things will be useful. And you can see loka and uttara, lokuttara. So that means the five aggregates, and uttara means above and beyond, or transcending. That is why they are called transcendental meditation. So the first three classes of consciousness are called Lokiya, that is Kamavachara, Rupavachara, and Arupavachara. These are mundane. And this is Lokottara, that is supramundane. That is again another category that we can learn. So here in the Kamavachara Chitta, okay, here I want you to pay attention to this very carefully. Kamavachara, for example, Somanassa Sahagatang, Ditthigata Sampayutang, Asankarikang Ekang. So this is one chitta. Somanassa Sahagatang, Ditthigata Sampayutang, Asankarikang Ekang. That means Somanassa, your mana or your mind is happy. Sahagata, consisting or endowed with happiness. Ditthigata, Ditthigata Sampayutta. So that means wrong view. Ditti is actually means view. So Ditthigata means you are already kind of dogmatic. So Sampayutta means again consists. So you consist of this wrong view. And in many cases, Ditti word is used for wrong view. Ditti is not necessarily wrong. Ditti means view. But in many cases, Ditti is there in the negative sense. Of course, there are some places with positive view too. But in this case, it is the wrong view. So happy mind, but wrong view. And asankarika means like not prompted. So when you have something like that, maybe we need to take some example. Your mind is happy, but your view is wrong, and then you are not prompted. You do it yourself. That is the nature of this mind. And here, somanasa sagatang, your mind is happy. Dittigata sampayuttang, also again wrong view. And sasankarikam, somebody else is prompting you to do that. And here somanasa sagatang, dittigata vipayuttang, here you don't have the wrong view. Somanasa sagata and dittigata vipayutta. And asankarikam means unprompted. You are not prompted by others. And this one, somanasa sahagatang, dittigata vipayutang, and sasankarikang. That means you are happy and you don't have wrong view, and then somebody else is promoting you to do that. And so this is the upekka sagata, this is the equanimity, equanimous mind. And again, dittigata sampayutta and the asankarika, that is unprompted. And upekka sagata, dittigata sampayutta and sasankarika. And upekka sagata, dittigata vipayutta and asankarika. And upekka sagata, dittigata vipayutta, sasankarika. These are called eight chittas, immoral consciousness. And these are the things that you find it's more easier if you analyze them. Like somanasa sahagata, somanasa sahagata, somanasa sahagata, somanasa sahagata. The first four, we have somanasa sahagata. And then we have the second four, upekka sahagata, and that is upekka sahagata. And then dittigata sampayutta, and here dittigata vipayutta, and dittigata vipayutta, and dittigata sampayutta, and vipayutta, and asankarika and sasankarika, and asankarika and sasankarika, asankarika and sasankarika, asankarika and sasankarika. So this way, if you analyze them, I think it will be easier for you to remember. These are called immoral consciousness or akusala chittani.
What did upeka sahakatang mean?
Upekka means equanimity. Equanimous. The mind is equanimous. They are neither happy nor sad.
So neutral?
Yes, neutral. That's right. So manasa here is neutral. I mean happy. And in the next one, you can see domanasa.
Okay.
Yeah, this is domanasa is the opposite of somanasa. And upekha is in between, neutral. So if you find domanasa, this is definitely to do something with the ill will. Okay, the domanasa saga, the mind is already ill will. And patigha sampayutta, you say patigha. Patigha is again ill will, anger. And asankarikang, sometimes it can be unprompted, sometimes it can be prompted. So with the help of the others also, you can have this mind coming up to you. They are called patiga sampayutta chitta. So two dosa mula chittas. And this the other two, upekka sagatang vichikicha sampayuttang. So this is moha mula. Vichikicha means doubt. And upekka sagatang uddacha sampayuttang, that again is restless. So when you have moha or ignorance dominating you, you have vichikicha and you have uddacha. That means doubt and restlessness is there in you. So here again, they are called moha mula. So lobha mula 8 and dosa mula 2 and moha mula 2. They are called 12 akusala chitta. And here we can see the English translation. One consciousness, unprompted, accompanied by pleasure and connected with wrong view. One consciousness, prompted, accompanied by pleasure and connected with wrong view. One consciousness, unprompted, accompanied by pleasure and disconnected with wrong view. One consciousness, prompted, accompanied by pleasure and disconnected with wrong view. One consciousness, unprompted, accompanied by indifference and then connected with wrong view. And one consciousness, prompted, accompanied by indifference and connected with wrong view. One consciousness, unprompted, accompanied by indifference and connected with wrong view. And one consciousness, prompted, accompanied by indifference and disconnected with wrong view. So these are called rooted in attachment, that is Lobha Mula, 8 types of consciousness.
Why do they use, in this particular text, why does he use indifference instead of equanimity when he's talking about upeka?
Indifference. Yeah, I think different people have maybe different opinions when they translate. Right? Indifferent also, you are not partial or you are not dogmatic or kind of maybe in between. Maybe like in your understanding it can be different. That's why many different translations are there with different words. Sometimes it can also be really misleading, right? Because if you don't get the right word for translation, and that will give a wrong meaning too. That can also pretty much be the case. I don't know. I don't know how you think, but I just felt like equanimity and this look more similar. But I don't know whether you agree or not.
Well, Bhikkhu Bodhi uses equanimity instead of
Okay.
indifference. So that's why I was asking the question. But to me, indifference implies almost a flippant attitude, almost it doesn't have the same connotation as equanimity, at least as far as I'm concerned. But I guess it does.
It feels more dismissive, doesn't it?
Yes, very. That's it.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind though is on translations, like in English, we have a different connotation towards words. Like when you say Lord Buddha to somebody who's never seen Buddhism, they're going to freak out and think that Buddha is a god all of a sudden.
Yes.
So yeah, you kind of have to keep loose translations when it comes to like things like indifference.
Yeah, and also depending on the context, and maybe in this case, remember this is still akusala. It is still immoral, right?
Good
It
point.
is not like wholesome again. So maybe in this context you can still use it. And as you mentioned, yes, for example, if we say Buddha, just Buddha, maybe the people in traditional Buddhist country, they feel insulted. Oh, how can you say like that? So it's difficult. Like maybe for people here, they find it okay. So translating from one language to another can always be really challenging because it has so many cultural baggage. Connotations can be different, and because we have to adapt, we have to borrow the words from maybe the Christian ideologies, right? Like temple, robe, and church, and all these things we have to borrow from here. Same way, when the Christianity goes to traditional Buddhist countries, they adopt those Buddhist words. It can happen. So we can give maybe exact same connotation, but maybe we need to keep in mind with the context too. Yeah, thank you for that question. I think that's a pretty good argument. We have to think of it seriously. And here, ill will, you can see one consciousness unprompted, accompanied by displeasure and connected with ill will. So when you have ill will, you cannot have pleasure. It can always be displeasure, but it can be unprompted and it can be prompted. This is the difference. So two consciousness rooted in ill will or aversion are there. And then the delusion thing, more, I always warn the delusion thing can be very tricky. One consciousness accompanied by indifference. That is why upekha, like we have meditation called upekha. Upekha can always also be misleading us, because it is also kind of involved with ignorance. Okay, upekha is not necessarily very, very, very good. Upekha can also be occupied with ignorance at some point. So one consciousness here, accompanied by indifference or upekha and connected with doubts. And one consciousness accompanied by indifference, connected with restlessness. So when you have ignorance, you have doubts. When you have ignorance, you have restlessness. That is the other thing that you need to know. And is that clear to you? Yeah, and
I think as clear as it's going to be at the moment.
yes.
We're waiting for the mud to settle.
What is it?
I said, we're waiting for the mud to settle in the water.
I
And then we'll
know.
be able to see clearly.
Sediment to drop out.
Yeah, that's right. It's so full of murky, muddy situation, right? That's why we need to practice more, calm down. And the walking meditation can also be a very good way to settle ourselves, especially when you are very murky, really restless. Walking can be really helpful. And if you are like dominated by anger, maybe you can also do something to work on that. How do you do when you get angry? What do you do? Let's say like real life situations. You are angry. How do you cope up with that situation? Now you are like Abhidhamma students.
You're talking real life right now. So that's something I'm actually working on and been doing a lot of reading and things like that. Anger is a very primitive response, a very primal response that without logic can overtake you. And I've been talking to Kyle and Lee about something that I've been doing that's actually been quite beneficial, and it's breathing exercises. And Kyle and Lee know it as the Wim Hof method of controlled hyperventilating almost, and then holding of the breath, and then staying in the moment with that. And it's actually quite beneficial for anger and anxiety in overcoming that. But yeah, there's without logic or wisdom, excuse me, anger can overtake you, and so can anxiety. You get into a fight or flight, and a lot of people get anger because of anxiety. So it's quite fascinating.
I used to visit the prisons here. I used to go to like once a month. So I when there, I taught them meditation. And one day they were like also giving a briefing about their own practice. One guy said one time he was watching TV and somebody in the back was coughing at him. And he was a big guy already, and he could easily overpower that guy, and he could punch him or something. But he looked at him at the back, and he was spitting on him, he said. Like, it was really frustrating. It was like prompting you to encouraging you to a fight. And suddenly he said, he remembered, I asked you to observe your breath. You know, he suddenly remembered that advice of me. And so he noticed that his breath is, you know, his palpitation is so fast and his breath is becoming like even more faster. And then he was not responding to that guy. And then again, he was watching the TV and he did it again. Now it's really very difficult, you know, in a situation like that. I mean, this is real time situation. So this guy thought if he would stay there and you know, practicing his meditation, he wouldn't be able to survive anymore. So he left that place. He left that place, he went to his cell, he closed his eyes, and he felt the entire body was like in so much fire, you know, anger is, you know, totally overwhelmed in him. But luckily, he had the good karma not to react to that situation verbally or physically. Otherwise, he could have extended his prison life more longer. So then he started practicing and he could see him calm down, you know. So I would say when you are angry, like in the Western society, I heard like you just, you know, respond to that, you just react to that, and that's done, you know. But I would like to say like maybe the first 90 seconds, if you do not respond, you will save your life, you will save others' life. Maybe the first 90 seconds or something, when you are in real angry situation, you can actually figure it out. You can calm down. That really ferocious, destructive force of your anger can be minimized to a greater extent. Yes, you need to recognize your breath pattern. That is why I really like breathing meditation, anapanasati, because if you are more into practice, you will recognize your breathing changes all the time. Whenever there is something different in your body system, you can recognize your breath is changing. If you are smart, you can actually survive in many cases, and you can become healthy, you can become happy, both inside and outside. And you can see that can benefit you and benefit everyone else in the society. So how do you practice when you are angry? What kind of reactions or what kind of steps do you take when you are angry? Any idea?
So whenever I've had people, like if someone's very rude or offensive, I find that I kind of draw on the history of my practice. There's a little bit of a disconnect between, like I can kind of see the moment when things start to go from calm to that reaction, and I can kind of in moment I can kind of disconnect a little bit from it and analyze it, and like you were saying, remove from the situation if you need to. But on a longer sort of term basis, I know sometimes you might be angry when you go to sit down and practice later, and that anger sticks around when you're not in that direct moment. And I know at that time I use a lot of a lot of loving kindness meditation, because everybody has a reason for what they do, and if you can understand that, then that anger tends to fall away. So kind of two different things, I guess, that I do.
Yeah, thank you. Any other opinions? How do you react when you're angry?
One time when I was still working, my boss came to me very, very angry at the correction that I wrote to the architect. The architect happened to be her husband. And luckily, I read about the Buddha's teaching before that, it was talking that Buddha said, you treated it as the gift brought to you. You didn't have to accept it. So when this supervisor came to me, actually she's a commissioner. When she came to me so angry, we were in an office with an open, very open office. So anything happened, everybody could hear. She came to me so mad. Then I started realizing, I say, oh, I'm going to treat it as a gift. I'm not going to accept. So when she was so angry, I said, I listened very carefully why she was so angry. Suddenly I realized it was the correction I wrote, and I wrote it to her husband, which she didn't like it. So I say, if you don't like it, then we can rewrite it. The way that you want it, we'll rewrite it. So somehow she was pretty happy when she left. And my office mates was asking me, how did you do that? How come you were not so mad? She came to you so rude. So I was telling myself, I was so lucky. I read about that story beforehand, so I was able to use it.
Very nice. Very nice. That's actually the way you should learn. You know, it is the ego factor, right? We all have ego. How can they, how dare they tell me like that? You know, I'm educated. I'm a big one. You know, you can try to justify your own your own ego. We are actually building our ego, and because of that ego, you get angry. And if you say like, okay, this is another situation, another story, another person's ignorance. And so if you can be indifferent or equanimous at that time, I think that will be so easier, but it's not easy. In practical life, it's not easy if you are not practicing regularly. It will easily make you very upset and restless. And that restlessness will be there deep inside. This is the danger. The anger is okay. You know, you get angry and you express it, done. But if anger turns to be a hatred, that will be the most dangerous thing. That can be disastrous. So have you heard the story of Kali Yakini? The Dhammapada, I think it is the 5th stanza or something. How two wives were fighting each other and killing each other's children for many births, because the anger becomes a hatred. So the Buddha said, hatred never becomes, hatred can never be appeased by hatred. Hatred can only be appeased by non-hatred. And this is an eternal law. And Buddha again in the 7th stanza or something in the Dhammapada says, we all die. We are not more immortal. We all die. Our life is short. So why should we fight? Right? And why do we need to have enemies in our life? We don't live forever. And so why should we even be angry with others? Or never ever even think of hating others. Never ever think of revenging upon others. That is really a very big mistake if we do so. So the moment we recognize I am in angry mode, I think you need to be really smart, and you need to neutralize responding. If you say something maybe with that angry mood, that can be that can hurt the other person. That's why you have to be little be careful about that. So in Buddhism we have something called noble silence. Right? This noble silence is an amazingly powerful tool that we all can use to greater benefits. So you don't say something, you're really angry, but you don't say something that time, Maybe later when you are calm, when the other person also calm, you can go talk to that person. Hey, you did say that, I didn't like it. You can say that. But if you say it when you are angry, that means you are restless already. You are unsettled in your mind, and do not use that mood to react to and take decisions, and that will be disastrous. That can be disastrous. Sometimes patience can be a paramita. They call it Khanti paramita. It's a perfection. Khanti. There is no end to patience. Patience can make so many things. Like as you said, Lisa, when you do those things, other people will be really surprised. How do you do that? Maybe if you have that wisdom, you can use it. And if you also practice in real life situations, that will save you. That will save your inner peace. You will not be disturbed uh, just because of somebody else's trying to manipulate. Some people want to hurt you. They try ways to hurt you, and you react to that like a fool. You become a victim, right? And then they enjoy it because that's exactly what they wanted. And if you are smart, you're not falling a victim to that trap. Then you can say, okay, you can go a long way in your practice.
I went for 2 years without getting mad. Nobody knows this. And it was a great feeling. It was a nice feeling of calm all the time. Nothing bothered me. Someone yelling, children screaming, traffic, nothing. And then last September, I went and changed my internet service and I got mad. It wasn't, I was so disappointed in myself that I got mad. And I was mad. We went round and round for about a week. So I was restless and agitated for a week. And I'm still trying to get back to that equanimity that I had. So it is possible, to live happily without having anger.
Yeah.
It can be done.
Yeah.
Even
I also don't remember when I got angry last. I don't remember. I try not to get angry. And of course, never to revenge upon others. That can be really, I think, keep practicing, and also mindfulness in your breath can be very helpful. I have also encountered situations like a Buddhist monk. Like some people don't like us sometimes, and sometimes it can happen. You don't know. So just be kind to them, and that is the last thing they expect. And that is the last thing they expect, and they eventually feel, hey, this guy is not responding to my anger, and so they calm down and they feel already frustrated and they feel okay. And I think if we are practicing like that, hopefully so we should have our own ways. Sometimes I feel I tell my students, like, sometimes when you're angry, don't stay there. Maybe like you might do something stupid, you say something, or and maybe you can drink a little bit of water, so that you can calm down. And also counting method, like back and forth, 1 to 10, slowly counting, that will help. And also the walking, beautiful, very beautiful walking meditation. Just walk, when you are angry, you walk a little faster, don't walk slower. And don't try to sit when you are angry, because you are restless. It will be difficult for you to calm down when you are angry. So it's always recommended you use walking meditation when you are angry. That will calm you down. And after that, you can sit, of course. Maybe different people can use different ways to cope up with anger, especially in today's world. anger has become an integral part of our lifestyle. People yell, people, get angry, and family life, and also work, office, many places. You can see how people so easily lose their temper. Okay, Dr. Jacobs, do you have anything to say? Look at her, she is very kind.
Yeah, this is a great discussion. But I just guess I would underline what you said, that it's kind of on the, like on the back end, once you're angry, it's really hard. But if you have the practice on the front end and it's closer to you, to like the man in the prison who thought about his breathing, like if it's closer to you to grab that helpful thing quicker. And I've been doing twice a day meditation for a while, and it's just quicker to get to it. I've like planted it closer. So I guess that's the only other thing I think to emphasize, but that's what you said, is that the practice gives you the base. So when it happens, you don't get all caught up in those cheetahs you just described.
Yeah. So yes, thank you so much. I think these are very helpful. And I also like you to use daily practical situations to learn the Abhidhamma, and use these theories in your real life situations. That can be very helpful. And that way, I think the Abhidhamma can be much more helpful to you. And everything you do in life should be analyzed with Abhidhamma. Maybe, what is the chitta that I have? What is the chitta that I have when I have like this situation? Like when you are driving, you get someone honking you, or in the back, or you are very late and you want to really drive faster, and then suddenly comes the traffic light, and then what is the chitta that you can have? you know try to recognize your chitta there. And sometimes people, when they see the yellow light, they will accelerate more. So what is the chitta that you have? um, try to analyze your chitta. And I think I like to call it traffic light meditation. Whenever you see that, the red light, oh, this is very good. Blessing in disguise. I have some moments to practice my meditation. I practice meditation like breathing meditation, anapanasati, for few seconds until it, because even if you go drive faster, it doesn't make any sense, much of a sense. It might even be so dangerous if you drive in the yellow light, right? So stop there. The red light is there, or yellow light is there for you to meditate. And that way you don't worry about anything else. You feel so happy. I think we need to find different ways in practice to learn the Dhamma. Okay,
Right
let's
time?
take a break.
10 minutes?
10 minutes,
Awesome.
okay. Okay, so
Thank
we'll
you.
see you at the 3:20. So we are into the last section of today's lecture, and okay. Yeah, the auditors are there, I know. So they are requested to be in silent mode and not using the privilege of the enrolled class, but they are welcome to listen to this class and the discussion. Maybe that's one thing that Venerable Kongyang wanted to ask. And somebody is asking also, can auditor use the chat? And I think Venerable Kongyang will answer to that as well. Okay. So I would like to start this with this little article here, Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Here, the Abhidhamma is giving. Here we have an article on this. The Abhidhamma, its origin and text, and literary style and genre, and Abhidhamma exegesis from Dharma to Dharmas, and the Dharma taxonomy, a metaphysics of experience, time from impermanence to momentariness, and intrinsic nature between categorization and ontology, and causation, existence as functioning, and epistemology, perception, and the theory of the consciousness process. And then we do have the bibliography as well. And so this article can be a little helpful for you to know some different schools of Buddhism and how they have adopted Abhidhamma
Bhante,
Do
we
you
don't,
have a screen to share?
Oh. Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you for reminding. I have shared this article. The link is there. This is just a short article, actually. So I hope it can be also very helpful, at least to get some idea about the Abhidhamma in different schools. So as we already mentioned, when we say Dharma, is it Pali or Sanskrit? When we say Dharma?
Sanskrit.
Yes, it is Sanskrit, right? So when we have Abhidharma, sometimes we can also recognize the author. Maybe he is more pro Sanskrit, and maybe pro Mahayana, pro Theravada. We can recognize that, and also we can see here in this article a lot of Sanskrit terms, and also good to see that a comparison. Let me make it a little bigger.
Go to the three dots on the right hand. Oh, there you go. You got it. Never mind.
Okay. Is it? Okay, I think this is more helpful to you. So we can see the first century after Sakyamuni Buddha's death, so the rise of multiple schools of thought and teacher lineages within the Buddhist community as it spread throughout the Indian subcontinent. After the Buddha, immediately after the Buddha's passing away, we see signs of schism among the Sangha. So some of the monks, they were like those who are not very enthusiastic about practicing, but rather than having the robe as a way of living, maybe like They not really the lifestyle, but maybe just a way to survive. So they didn't want to practice the Dharma. They rather wanted to enjoy the benefits when you are in the robe. So those monks, when the Buddha passed away, they were happy. And so those senior monks who were more accountable and also more concerned about the sustenance of the sasana, they decided to assemble all the sangha, and they decided to organize a council. Um, so accordingly, the first Buddhist council took place, and that time still the authentic teaching and those many of the monks were there who have seen the Buddha themselves, so that was little more comfortable. And some of the monks still, far away places like in remote areas, as Buddhism spread fast in every nook and corner of India and in the adjacent lands. So for some, it was not so easy and to have the original touch of the Dhamma. So depending on different geographical situations, climate situations, and different circumstances, they also changed things a little bit. And that is why Buddha actually, at the end, he also said some minor precepts can be changed, he said, depending on the circumstance. And so the problem was, like, when they started changing, they didn't know like up to what extent they should change. So they kept changing, and that became later on so much different from the original teaching. So that was the concern of Venerable Mahakassapa at the first council. He said, we are not going to change anything. We will stick to the original precepts. We are not going to change. And that way, that Theravada tradition, they did not want to change much. But change or impermanence or transformation is pretty much part of the teaching of the Buddha himself. So there is one thing that doesn't change, that is change. So impermanence is one thing that it is happening even in the Dharma itself. So the Sangha started having different schools, and then there were branches, and by within the first 100 years or so, there were like several different Buddhist schools. So here we say both as an independent literary genre and a branch of thought and inquiry, Abhidharma is to be contrasted with Sautranta, Sutranta, the system of the Buddha's discourses. So there were different schools. Sautrantika, that means they were more focusing on sutra, sutta studies, and so they were not really happy to engage with Abhidhamma matters. And here we can see for the Buddhist exegetical tradition, however, the term means approximately higher or further, that is about the Abhidhamma. It refers both to the doctrinal investigations of the new scholastic movement and to the body of text yielded by its systematic exposition of Buddhist thought. This body of literature includes the third or the three baskets of the Buddhist canon, namely the Abhidharma Pitaka, its commentaries and later exegetical texts. So there were some issues. Some did not want to accept Abhidharma. Of course, we know now Kathavat Upakarana talks directly about the controversies, and Venerable Moggaliputta directly answers and defends the Theravada Buddhist point in that book. So that means there have been a lot of other people who were believing or practicing other stuff, and therefore there were different kinds of suttas. So different schools of Buddhism. So one was called Sautrantika. And Abhidharma method presents the Buddha's teachings in technical terms. And there were some really very hardcore followers of Abhidharma too. So then we also have the Abhidharma analysis of and methods of argumentation about these controversies provided the framework of reference and defined the agenda of the Mahayana schools of Madhyamika and Yogacara. We can see here how Mahayana schools like Madhyamika and Yogacara have also defined these schools. So over time, many things change, many things happen, and it was hard for them to find one true essence of Buddhism, and so they followed different schools. Eventually, as a distinct doctrinal movement, then Abhidhamma had a remarkable impact on subsequent Buddhist thought and gave rise to Buddhist systematic philosophy and hermeneutics. So I think hermeneutics is quite a um, modern word, but it was still there those days as well as a theory. So subsequent Buddhist thought and so the Abhidhamma has given a different light to different schools of Buddhism. And here in this we can see by the a generally accepted tradition has it that sometime around the beginning of the 3rd century BCE, the primitive Buddhist community divided into two parties or fraternities, the Sthaviras, that or Pali Theriyas, and the Mahasanghikas, each of which thenceforth had its own ordination tradition. Now we have Theravada or Theriya, or Sthavira is Sanskrit, Thera is Pali. So Theravada or Sthaviravada is one, and Mahasanghika is the other. So mostly the Mahasanghikas had large numbers of actually large number of monks as compared to the Sthaviras, because they were more easier and comfortable with changing or editing or transforming according to the situations. Therefore, the number of those kind of progressive monks started growing bigger and bigger. And throughout the subsequent 2 centuries or so, doctrinal disputes arose between those two parties. Now, they had Sthaviras and Mahasanghikas. So even initially it was only minor things, like for example Vajjins, Vajjian monks, they were concerned about changing 10 minor precepts, but later on even the doctrinal matters started to undergo changes. So doctrinal disputes also took place, resulting in the formation of various schools of thought. So Vada or Acharya Vada, so sometimes they follow different teachers. Okay, my teacher says this, so all the followers had that teaching, and they always promoted that teaching. And the teacher lineages, Acharya Kula, these are some of the situations that happened those days. So different schools started to flourish and blossom everywhere. According to traditional Buddhist accounts, by the time the Mahayana doctrine arose, roughly in the 1st century BC, there were 18 subsects or schools of Theravada. So Theravada itself underwent 18 subcategories. The tradition ancestral to the Theravada, Stavira or Theravada. And the number 18, though, became conventional in Buddhist historiography for symbolic and mnemonic reasons. In fact, different Buddhist sources preserve divergent lists of schools which sum up to more than 18. So these 18 were more or less 18, but there were still more other schools, maybe minor schools, like some traditions, some Acharya just appeared and disappeared all the time. The likelihood is that the early formative period of the Buddhist community gave rise to multiple intellectual branches that developed spontaneously due to the geographical extension of the community over the entire Indian continent and subject to the particular problems that confronted each monastic community. The monastic community is the Sangha. So it was a large geographical area, and the cultural differences, language differences, and the distance logistical differences, weather, all these things actually affected. Uh, it was difficult to communicate, and because of the, not like today, so it was pretty easy for them to adjust to different situations. And also it's natural. Each Sangha tended to specialize in a specific branch of learning, had its own practical customs and relations with lay circles, and was influenced by the particular territory's economy and use of language and dialect prevalent in the environment. Indeed, the names of the 18 schools are indicative of their origins in characteristic doctrine, geographical locations, or the legacy of particular founders. For instance, Sarvastivada, they advocate the doctrine that all things exist. So Sarva Asti Vada, the teaching that prescribes uh, everything everything is there, everything exists. Sautrantika, Sutra, they talk about the sutras, those who rely on the sutras. Here, Darshtantikas, those who employ examples. So, Darshtantikas is another school. And Puggalavada, so those who affirm the existence of the person. Now you can also see why they are different. Sarvastivada, completely maybe different tradition, and Sautrantika, they were more relying on sutras. And here we have another school who employ examples. And Puggalavada, Puggala is person, so existence of the person, they had a different teaching. Haimavata, or snowy mountain, Himavanta, or Hima is the snow. So they were in the mountains. So most of the monks who were practicing maybe like in the mountains, so they had mostly segregated themselves from the rest of the urban society. So their tradition also was different. Then Vatsiputri or Vajjiputtaka, those affiliated with Vatsiputras, they were also having their own teachings. Like Vajjiputtakas were the people a group of monks who were responsible for initiating the Third Buddhist Council, as noted by Getting. Like Christianity, at least some of the schools mentioned by later Buddhist traditions are likely to have been informal schools of thought in the manner of Cartesians, British empiricists, or Kantians for the history of modern philosophy. So those days it was also like that, depending on the accessibility to their teachers and the weather conditions and the geographical locations and all the cultural linguistic situations. Those different schools started to grow. And so multiple ancient Buddhist schools transmitted their own versions of Abhidharma collections. Now we also know they were like learning things by heart. So they had their own like groups of monks who, if they had all the monks learning different parts of the Pitaka, that would have been much greater, much beneficial for them, but not necessarily. But some of them, like let's say like Sautrantikas, they didn't have other masters, so they had their own school called Sautrantikas. But only two complete canonical collections are preserved, representing two schools: Sarvastivada, who emerged as an independent school from within the Sthaviras around the 2nd or 1st century BCE, became dominant in North. So in North India, Sarvastivada was dominant. And it was also in the Northeast and Central Asia. And the Sinhalese Theravada, a branch of the Sthaviras that spread out in South India and parts of Southeast Asia. Now we know Sthaviras or Theravada, two forms, one in the north and the northeast of India, and the other is the south of India, including the Sinhalese Theravada. Sinhala is actually Sri Lankan. They are called Sinhala. So a branch of Sthaviras spread to the like South India, and also through that Southeast Asia as well. So these two extant collections comprise the third of the three baskets, and that is called Tipitaka, as we mentioned before. So the exegetical traditions of Sarvastivada and Theravada understand their respective canonical Abhidharma to consist of a set of 7 texts. So they had Sarvastivada and Theravada, they had 7 texts. And Sarvastivada in Abhidharma Pitaka consists of Sangiti Pariyaya Sutta, that's another sutta. And then Dharma Skandha, the Prajnapti Shastra, and the Vijnana Kaya, and the Dhatu Kaya, and the Prakarana Pada, and the Jnana Prasthana. So these 7 texts survive in full only in their ancient Chinese translations. So this is also very interesting when we talk about the different Abhidharma Pitaka here in the Sarvastivada. And interestingly, they have these Chinese 7 texts survive in full in the ancient Chinese translation. The Theravada in Abhidhamma Pitaka comprise Dhamma Sangani, the Vibhanga, Dhatu Kata, Puggala Panyati, Kathavattu, Yamaka, and Patthana. So these are the Theravada, the text. So I would like to also recommend you learn this Mahayana, or the Chinese translation of the Abhidharma Pitaka, which comprise of Sangiti Pariyaya and Dharma Skandha and Prajnapti Shastra and Vijnana Kaya and the Dhatu Kaya. Maybe these names, these texts will also be useful when you talk about, if you want to talk about the different schools of Abhidhamma, you have to discuss about the Sarvastivada, the Chinese translations, and also the Theravada Abhidhamma Pitaka 7 texts. Um, these 7 texts are preserved in Pali, and all but the Yamaka have been translated into English. So Yamaka, the two pairs, the pairs, that one has not been translated into English. Maybe now we can also double check with that. And up to this point, it has not been translated. Yamaka, the rest has been translated.
I've seen some parts of it in English.
Oh yeah, Yamaka?
Mm-hmm.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely it should be like in progress right now, because many people are, many schools of Buddhism, they are very interested and enthusiastic about learning and also translating. It's amazing, like the mainland Chinese and Myanmar, Sri Lankan, Thai, Cambodian, Laos, Indian, and Tibetan, they all promote Buddhism. I know there is some Tibetan school. Some friends I know very well. I have also been working with them, and they promote Theravada Buddhism all the time. And they organize Theravada Buddhist chantings, and they always support that school and also learn from each other. I think this is really very, very wonderful. Even here, Right Mindful um, um, Meditation Training Center and Midwest America Society here, you see how they are so respectful to cross-sectarian Buddhism. I think it is really a good progressive way that we learn from each other and that we respect each other, because those age-old canonical texts and also the great Dhamma, the noble teachings, can be there in every section, every school. So it's good to learn from them. And meditation or Abhidhamma or any other thing, it's a good way if we can learn from them. So later generations composed commentaries on the canonical Abhidhamma and introduced variety of exegetical manuals that expound the essentials of the canonical systems. So these post-canonical texts are products of single authors and display fully developed polemical stances and sectarian worldviews of their respective schools. And here, this Theravada Abhidhamma system, we have basically Buddha Ghosa's comprehensive Visuddhimagga, and it is the 5th century. Venerable Buddha Ghosa was an South Indian monk who came to Sri Lanka, and he asked the permission to use the Mahavihara. That was Mahavihara, the let's say like the Theravada headquarters those days in Anuradhapura. When he came there, 5th century, and he asked those senior monks if they can use the library system there, and so they said it doesn't. They don't allow anyone scholar to use their library just like that. I think the way they found they tested this monk was really unique. These monks asked them to write a book. Actually, they gave him one Pali stanza and asked them, show your capacity, show your aptitude if you want to learn here in the use the Mahavihara library. They gave him one Pali stanza. That was Sile Patithaya Naro Sapanyo Chittang Panyancha Bhavayang Atapi Nipako Bhikkhu Ko Imang Vijataye Jatan. This was the stanza given to Venerable Buddha Ghosa. And Venerable Buddhaghosa wrote a commentary covering the entire Tipitaka. That was called Visuddhimagga. And Visuddhimagga is such a comprehensive manual of meditation, one of the most complete treatise of Buddhist meditation, up to date, we can say. And such a comprehensive manual he wrote. And it is said in the legendary story, it is said when he wrote the first book, he wrote it in the palm leaf, and it was actually, it disappeared. He could not find it. And then he wrote again. He wrote again from the beginning, and it is said it was also lost. Somehow he couldn't find it. And he wrote again the third one. And when he wrote the third one, when he finished the third one, the earlier two also were there. So they were all three in number. Can you imagine that system? This is the modern academic system, right? When you write a thesis, you make 3 copies and you submit to the university. That's what he did. That's for 5th century Mahavihara temple. They had that system in them. So after going through this comprehensive manual, this Visuddhimagga, the Mahavihara um, um, administrative authority, they allowed Venerable Buddhaghosa to use the Mahavihara library. These were some of the stories that we have. Do you know about Ashwaghosa? Ashwaghosa, right? I think it is Ashwaghosa. Do you know about him? So I think it is Ashwaghosa. There is another story about that. Yeah, Toshita, I have actually shared this document in the Slack already. And it is said one time Venerable Ashwaghosa went to Nalanda University. Okay. And when he went to Nalanda University, the somebody in the front desk, those days it was not like here, today, but what the monk there he brought was a water bowl, and so he just brought it and he was holding it in front of Venerable Ashwaghosa. And Venerable Ashwaghosa, what did he do? There was no conversation. He went there. He was standing in front of the Nalanda University, and a monk from inside came with a bowl, a water bowl, and Venerable Ashwaghosa took a needle from his bag. You know, the monks have, they are in their uniform set, there is a needle, what we call attaparikara, there is a needle. That is very important for them to mend their robes whenever they are torn. So a needle was a part of their uniform. And Venerable Ashwaghosa took out a needle and put it on the water bowl. So the monk took the bowl inside, and the interview board or the selection committee approved his admission to the university. that was a quite modern way to interview the monks. Do you know the meaning? Can anyone say what happened there? So what did he do? Venerable Ashwaghosa put a needle into the water bowl, and the selection committee of the university approved it. And he was allowed to study in the university. And there was no conversation in between. Nobody talked. That was just silent interview. Monk went silent, and another monk came with a water bowl, and he put a needle into that, and that's it. That was the interview. You know, the symbolic, this is all symbolic. The monk who brought the bowl of water, he was silently suggesting him, hey, you cannot study here. This is an ocean of knowledge. Okay, you cannot study like this here. It's not going to be easy. So the monk took out a needle and he put it inside and said, hey, I am a needle. I can go pierce deep into the fathom, very fathom of this knowledge. And the selection body committee approved it right away. See, those were the ways, those age-old traditional methods that you used, that they used to testify the incoming scholars. And we can see now they are more ultra modern than today. Sometimes we can see that, right? So same thing with the Buddhaghosa. He had to write a comprehensive thesis called Visuddhimagga, and then only the Mahavihara authority, selection committee, allowed him to study in this wonderful school. And I had the privilege to teach in a university there for some many years, just in the Mahavihara premises. That is the ancient capital of Sri Lanka. So the path of purification, a very important treatise in the Theravada tradition. And the direct introductory Abhidhamma manuals are Buddha Datta's Abhidhamma Avatara, Introduction to Abhidhamma, 5th century again, and Anuruddha's Abhidhammata Sangaha, compendium of the topics of Abhidhamma, 12th century CE. And then Sarvastivada tradition preserves in Chinese translation 3 different recensions of an authoritative Abhidharma commentary or Vibhasa, dated to the 1st or 2nd century. Really old text, very, very wonderful text in Chinese translation. The last and best known of which is called the Mahavibhasa. So the Vibhasa compendia documents several centuries of scholarly activity representing multiple Sarvastivada branches, most notably the Sarvastivadins of Kashmir, who are known as Sarvastivada Vaibhashika. It's very interesting to note that Kashmir and that area is supposed to be very highly intellectual people over there, this Kashmir region. Unfortunately, today it's a baffling ground, it's a battleground, and it's also people over there are more like Europeans in Kashmir region, and lots of mountains too. Sarvastiva, the manual most influential for later Chinese and Tibetan Buddhism. However, Vasubandhu's Abhidharma Kosha, this is 5th century book. The Abhidharma Kosha's auto commentary contains substantial criticism of orthodox Sarvastivada positions, which later Sarvastivada Vaibhashika masters attempted to refute. So there was a controversial and debate taking place in between these few wonderful scholars. Particularly famous in this category is the Nyayanusara, conformance of correct principle of Sangha Bhadra, a contemporary of Vasubandhu. This comprehensive treatise re-establishes orthodox Sarvastivada views and is considered one of the final Sarvastivada works to have survived. Again, these all are, you know, the epitome of those days, how wonderful they were, and how intellectually they were also involved in working with this powerful teaching of Abhidhamma. Abhidhamma has become a main standpoint in their school. So the Abhidhamma text, by and large, compositions contemporary with the formative period in the history of the early Buddhist schools, providing the means by which one group could define itself and defend its position against the divergent interpretations and criticisms of other parties. Although much of the Abhidhamma mindset and something of its method draw on the Agamas, Nikayas, the collections of sutras, Pali Suttas. The main body of its literature contains interpretations of the Buddha's discourses specific to each school of thought and philosophical elaborations of selectively emphasized doctrinal issues. These continued to be refined by subsequent generations and monks who contributed to the consolidation of the two surviving Theravada and Sarvastivada schools. I think with that, we can conclude for today, because it looks like the time, and I hope we can continue our discussion and learning through this process. Is everything okay? Do you have any final question? Okay, if not, we call it today. And thank you so much for joining us. And Dr. Jacob will be conducting tomorrow's class. I'll be able to join the morning session. I'll try my best to also join the afternoon session as much as I can, but I have some other work too. And thank you for joining us, and hope you enjoy the class. Hope you learned something new. And before winding up, I will again repeat the 7 texts of the
Dhamma Sangani.
Yes. So that it will,
Vibhanga.
yeah, okay. Lisa, you continue.
Oh, me? Oh, Datu Kata, Pugala, Panyati, Yamaka, Patana.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. That is amazing.
I think
Thank
you missed
you.
Kata.
Atavadu.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
missed
Oh,
Kata
that's right.
Vatu. So close.
Oh,
So close.
So, thank you
So-
very much.
Thank you, Bante.
Yeah, thank you so much for your teaching, Bante. It's really enjoyable.
thank you, Bante.
Okay, thank you so much. Dhamma Sangani Vibhanga Dhatu Kata Puggal Panyati Katavattu Yamaka Patthana. It will haunt you tonight.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, see you tomorrow again. Okay.
See you
Have a good
tomorrow.
night.